Alrighty, guys. Welcome to Across the Gun Counter. I'm your host, Joe Riva, joined by my co-host, Tyler Weaver over here.
What's up, guys?
Hey, so already, to start off, what's been new in the shop this week, Tyler? What have you had, any fun projects this lately, or
Oh, one thing I recently had in, it actually just left the shop. I think it was last week. I had a pair of revolvers that I had to do a rebarrel on. Customer inherited both of them. They were both 4-inch revolvers. It was a Ruger Security 6 and a Colt Official Police, I think it was.
mm-hmm.
And both had 4-inch barrels, and he wanted them swapped out for 6-inch barrels. Said, that was what he wanted. He could shoot them better, so let's have at it. So I had to source those barrels, which are a little hard to find takeoff barrels for revolvers, but I managed to find one for each of them, and that was my first time swapping out revolver barrels, and it went really well. He actually just sent me an email over the weekend saying, "Hey, I took them out. They were great. Do you know anybody that does custom holsters?"
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
So now is this guy looking for leather holsters? I'm assuming something like that to pair
Yeah.
with the nice Colt Police positive. You said.
Yep.
Now, was that the one I saw with you that we were trying to time up the one time, if I recall correctly? It was
Yes.
yes. Okay, that was the one.
Yep.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah, those were
Yep.
nice.
So
Those were nice looking revolvers. They were.
Yep. So
Yeah,
good news. Everything worked out in the end for him. And one of my previous customers from way back, uh, he is a leathersmith out in Washington State. So I said, hey, I've done work for this guy. I haven't gotten any of his work, but I've seen the pictures online, and it looks like good stuff. So it's just one way that I can help my customers out in the end.
that's awesome. Again, helping that building better shooters. Bringing the community together, doing more
Absolutely,
really,
kind of connecting everybody.
which is cool too. It's funny because if you think about it, 15, 20 years ago, you really didn't have that connectivity, or
No, no,
it's
no. That's the thing. You typically went to a gunsmith shop, you got your shit fixed, and you left.
yeah, that was it. And if they had it, they had it. If not, they tried to order something out of catalog, or they might know a guy, or you have to go to a gun show to get something done. But
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, we can connect with people. Hell, not even just across the country, all over the world. I remember, the Makarov I refinished. Well, I refinished with you, I should say.
Yeah.
The grips I want to get, I believe, actually from some guy in Hungary. I believe it is actually, and they look really nice. But
Mm-hmm.
again, before the internet and all this, never would have
That
known
would have been
about those.
impossible.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been
Yep.
something they found out at a gun show. Some guy would have been trying to charge like double what they're worth just because these were handmade in Hungary, and
Yeah.
who knows.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like the internet is our tool. We need to do a better job at utilizing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook's, Instagram, any social medias where you can connect with people. Use it to your advantage.
Exactly. It is a double-edged sword because I think a lot of people are concerned with our industry of being monitored and just the nature of firearms and online. But there,
Oh
I've
yeah.
I've learned a lot just browsing YouTube, things of that nature.
Hmm.
You
But now here's the thing. People are more comfortable at their home, and whatever they're looking up on the internet. Not many people. It's not like they're going to a library and pulling out a gun book. So people swinging towards the liberal side of things can, if they have some gun friends and they're seeing respectable posts from them, it might sway them to start
it
opening
change
their mind to what that lifestyle is about.
it changes the perspective a little bit. Yeah, that's very true. Can change the nature of it. I mean, I'll tell you in general, just from my shop, where I work, and what I've seen is we've seen a lot more people is if you don't talk the politics, you get a little bit more open. And again, I'll be honest, I don't agree with certain politics on both sides.
Yeah,
But hey,
same here.
at the end of the day, too, I believe everyone has the right to keep and bear arms. So, and I
Yep,
think
and that's what we can all get behind.
I just wish people would recognize that in other avenues, but that's neither here nor there
Yeah.
for right now.
So what have you guys had come into the shop lately?
This week, well, we've had, weirdly enough, is kind of what we predicted a few years ago with the pandemic, before, when the pandemic was hot and everyone was rushing to get shotguns and everything. Seen a
Yep.
lot of people bring in shotguns lately. Everyone's bringing in those
Just trying to get rid of them.
exactly. Everyone's trying to bring in just shotguns, whether it be Turkish ones. Now I'm actually seeing some more quality ones. Not that Turkish ones aren't quality, but they're just the
It depends
market.
who's making them.
It depends who's making them, and the market, quite frankly, is flooded with them. It doesn't matter which of the manufacturer, whoever it is. It's half the time it's just different roll marks on the gun, and then a different importer putting their name on it. but
Yep.
everyone wants like top dollar what they paid for them, and that's just not going to happen. That's just a very unreasonable expectation at the end of the day because you're not going to get what you paid for. Most guns do hold their value to a certain extent, but not to the extent of a brand new shotgun flipping it around 2 years later that you paid top dollar for during the pandemic. It's just not
Exactly.
going to happen. But yeah, we've seen a lot of shotguns. Like I said, I've seen more quality stuff coming in than Turkish stuff lately.
Hmm.
Like, and when I say quality, I'm not talking Benelli or Beretta 1301s or things of that nature. I'm just talking more like Mossbergs and the more U.S. brands, the Winchester stuff like that.
Okay.
Anyways, so leading into our main topic this week, that's going to be purchasing your first handgun or buying your first handgun, which I think is something a lot of people put either a little too much thought into or they don't put enough thought into, if that makes any
Hmm.
sense. So I know that sounds a little confusing, but let's get into both sides of that statement, Tyler.
Yeah.
Um, you know, what do you think about that with purchasing your first handgun?
So I was able to narrow it down to three key areas that people really need to focus on when it comes to buying their first handgun. So, above all, reliability. You
Okay.
are essentially carrying a firearm, or you want a firearm for defending your house, defending your family, because of the what if scenario. So, above all, you want it to be reliable. If
Okay.
it's not reliable, if you don't know for certain that that first round's going to go off when that moment just happens to occur, then that's not the gun for you. I mean, what Jennings 25 ACP is not a good carry gun just for the reliability factor.
It's not a good gun for any reason for the reliability factor.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So, above all, reliability. Number two's got to be comfort. Because let's be honest, if you have a gun that is uncomfortable to shoot, uncomfortable to carry, you're just flat out not going to carry it.
yeah,
You're not going to shoot it. You're not going to go to the range and practice with it.
you're not going to
And
enjoy it.
yeah, it's going to be a closet queen. So it's got to be comfortable and comfortable in more ways than one. You
Hmm.
know, my wife, for instance, she had two first carry guns. She had a Smith and Wesson M&P Shield, which I'm a big fan of. It carried well, it fit nicely, but in her hand, her trigger overhung, or her finger overhung the trigger.
Hmm.
So when she would squeeze, she would pull that gun to the left every time. So, and adjusting her finger, just it didn't work out. You know, if you have to think about it, you're not going to do it under stress. She ended up going with like a compact 1911. Yeah, you know, a female shooting a 45 ACP is nothing unheard of, and she loved that thing. It fit her hand. It was wider, so it took up more of that space. Put her finger right where it needed to be, and a little more weight, a little more power balanced it out, and
Tyler,
that was what she was carrying.
Tyler, hold on. I got to stop you 1 second. You're saying a female is capable of handling something that is larger than a 380 LCP or or a
A revolver?
revolver and 38 special?
Absolutely.
Whew.
I
Wow.
know. I know. Believe it or not, a revolver is not the best thing for a female to carry.
That's wow. That's very interesting. We can
Mm-hmm.
get into that in a little bit too. But
Yeah, some more
anyways,
FUD lore.
yeah, some
Granted,
more FUD lore.
okay, there are times, yes, it might be the perfect solution, but not every time.
Exactly.
So, anyway, that goes into the gun being comfortable. You know, if it's not comfortable, you're not going to shoot it. Uh, Lastly, and I guess, yeah, the most important is how well you can shoot it.
Hmm.
So, as long as the first two are covered, it's a reliable gun, it's comfortable. Can you actually shoot the damn thing?
Yeah, that's something that's extremely important that a lot of people overlook is, and this is something like I know I just kind of joked about the 380, the comment,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very true. Is a lot of times putting a 380 in someone's hand is not the best choice. First off, because it's a smaller gun, you don't have a full grip on it. You don't have control over the pistol. You need control over the
Absolutely.
firearm. If you can't control the firearm, what good is it going to do you?
Yeah, exactly. Now, granted, I'm a firm believer that all guns fit a certain purpose. Whether they
Hmm.
do it, excellent, good, can be discussed. But for the most part, as long as you have those first two covered, how well you can shoot it is really all that matters.
Yet, I
So,
mean,
other than that, I mean, price range, what you can afford, what the reputation is of the gun, accessories, all that, sights. I mean, really? Okay, you could have a gun with horrible sights in everybody's opinion. If you're still smacking pie plates with it, what's it
Yeah,
matter?
yeah. As long
You
as it
know?
fits you and you're doing well with it, that's what's
Yeah.
important.
Yep, exactly. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people get fooled by marketing. I mean, you really got to remember these people are in the business of selling guns. So,
There's certain
of
mainstream
course.
magazines like where every single gun works amazingly and they've never had an issue with it. But I can tell you from
Mm-hmm.
behind the counter and working with certain firearms, there's a certain major manufacturer a few years ago who introduced a pistol, and then they went under and they went bankrupt. And they are a major manufacturer, and they were a reputable name in this industry, and now everyone's kind of crapping on them. And
Mm-hmm.
but hey, reviews said it was great at first, but hey, everyone should be excited for this pistol. Yeah, that was all paid for. Don't believe when everyone talks about, if you notice the reviewer in every single review, they say that, oh yeah, this pistol's fantastic and it did this well, but my minor gripe
Yep.
is this, but everything else is fantastic. Chances are that pistol's not fantastic, or it's not everything it's they're saying it is meant to be.
Yep. And let me put it to you this way. I mean, it's a really good analogy, but okay, look at the car commercials you see the most, Kias, Toyotas, stuff like that, the affordable option, relatively reliable. But look at like the high performance, the really good stuff. Have you ever seen a Bentley commercial on TV? No.
No, it's true. I mean, except during the Super Bowl for some reason, that's the only time you'll see them. You notice that they'll always
Well,
show all the high
because
end.
they know it doesn't matter who's watching TV then. I mean, you
Exactly.
have celebrities there,
It's just
everybody.
funny if you think about it. You're right. You never see them except during that time.
Yeah,
That's it.
because they know their market.
Yep.
So again, if you're seeing these guns in magazines, they're marketed to the general public. They're selling quantity.
Hmm.
So just food for thought. Keep that in mind when you're buying a handgun. If you see it everywhere, you know, maybe do a little more investigation.
Exactly. Now,
You know.
something to keep in mind too with buying your first handgun. It's not your last handgun. I've tried to explain this to every single person who comes into the store and tries to when they're looking at their first handgun. They always like, oh well, I need it to do this. I need to be able to carry it. I need it to be able to go to the range. I need it to be
Yep.
able to to fit in my bedstand. I need it to be able to hit, three guys through 8 cinder blocks at 250 yards away. And I'm like, whoa, 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 slow down there, Chris Kyle.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? No, your first gun is your first gun.
Yep.
Keyword first, not your
Yep.
last. I mean,
Yeah.
case in
Chances are, I mean, let's be honest. You buy a handgun, you just enjoy shooting in general. You might not enjoy this gun, but you enjoy shooting in general. You're going to go out and you're going to start doing research and looking at other models. You'll buy another, and then you'll
exactly,
buy five.
exactly. I tell every single person when they say it's their first gun, I say gun is like a
Mm-hmm.
potato chip. You can't have just one. Case in point, I think about two or three new shooters coming within the past 2 weeks, and there's one in particular I know for a fact bought a full size, then he bought a compact, then he bought a full size the week after, and he's like, I like that so much. I saw what you were saying though, that you're gonna want something a little bit bigger, and went with
Mm-hmm.
that. I saw that happen a lot more frequently. It seems like a lot of people have the mindset of I just need one gun and then I'm done. And I'm like, no, once you actually get behind it and you try it, you're gonna understand why we're saying it's more than just your right. It's a fun hobby and it's a fun sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I always tell people, universal things do everything okay, but nothing great. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And the people that really tailor their guns to their individual need or multiple individual needs, um, they have different guns. How do I want to put this? They have different guns
For different
that,
rules.
yeah, they excel very highly at one specific task. I mean, when you break down handguns, uh, a tighter, you know, very good locking up gun with minimal headspace, everything like that. Everything's like real tight. There's no wobble to it. Is going to be a very accurate gun. Granted, if the barrel's in good condition, everything's in working order. It's going to be a very accurate gun,
You
but
know,
it's not going to be as reliable. as a Glock that has, a 16th of an inch gap between the slide and frame that you can
Mhm.
see through.
Something with that too is when you're talking about reliability and guns for different roles and purposes like that. The other week, I remember I told you I was shooting that Keltec, the P32,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting firearm because you look at that at face value and you feel it. You're like, this isn't anything special. And we took it to the range, and I'll tell
Feels
you,
kind of cheap.
it does. But I'll tell you, it was for me. I thought it was fun to shoot. Granted, it was a little snappy and everything because 32 ACP coming out of something that weighed not even a pound.
Hmm.
It had a long trigger, long reset, but for the roll of the gun, like when I did a quick fire with it, just at the target, I had very
Yeah.
good grouping follow up with it, and it did its role. Is it something I want to go shooting at the range all day and fire 100 rounds through? No, absolutely not. But
Nah.
it did its role. Would it be my first choice of a handgun? No, absolutely not, because it would not. That pistol would not be the one to keep me shooting more and explore more firearms. It just
Yeah,
wouldn't be
absolutely.
it wouldn't be a right choice. Does it have its role and purpose? Yeah, absolutely. It's just not necessarily your first choice.
Exactly. And one thing some people don't even consider when making a first choice is trying out a gun.
Hmm.
Now, there are multiple ranges that have rental guns. You can go and rent them. Um, I don't want to say buyer beware because you're not buying it, but be aware of the fact that these guns get thousands upon thousands of rounds run through them,
A lot
and
of people shoot them
I'm
with
yeah, I'm
not
gonna
as
say
much
minimal
maintenance.
maintenance. Yeah, a lot of the videos you see popping up online are rental guns that have just been so shot, parts are wearing out, things aren't lining up right, and then you get a catastrophic failure.
Funny,
So,
funny you mentioned that because growing up in Jersey, I
mhm,
not having as many ranges or gun stores like that, the idea of renting a firearm was kind of foreign to me, and getting over
yeah,
here, seeing that actually happen, I thought was so cool that someone can you can actually go to a place and rent the firearm and try it
yep.
beforehand.
And you know what? If they have a good catalog of firearms to rent, go up to one of the people because they know you're not trying to buy a gun. They're not going to sell you on. Ask them which one breaks the most.
Yeah,
What guns are down every week? And I'm sure they'll tell you because they'll laugh about it. You guys can have a good talk, and you come away with that knowledge. Like, okay, in real world scenarios where you're shooting the hell out of it, this always fails. And for
this
you, it might be something you're okay with. Okay, a pin breaks, great. I'll have one on hand.
Yeah, and again, what's the role of that gun? Is this is it a home gun? Is it a range gun? Is it a carry gun? Because if it's something that you hear the pins breaking every 100 rounds or 200 rounds, which any firearm that's not acceptable. But just for case
Hmm.
in point, if that's on a carry gun, you can't have that.
Yeah,
That's just
absolutely.
not acceptable at all. So different
Yep.
roles, different purposes. Different things to different things to consider when purchasing.
Yeah, and other than ranges that do rental guns, I mean, there's plenty of forums online. One thing my wife did when she was looking for her first handgun, I think it was PAFOA, which is like a Firearm Owners of Pennsylvania
Mm-hmm.
forum. She went on there and posted, hey, I'm a female looking to get my first carry gun, looking to try out some new things. If somebody's willing to go to the range with 5 rounds and let me try it, I'd like to meet up with you. So we actually did that a few times.
You know what? Hey, Tyler, let's actually talk about that, and let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with talking about female shooters and their first handgun in particular, because I want to go over a lot of misconceptions with that, just from what
Yeah,
I've
sounds
seen.
good.
So how's that sound? So guys, we'll be back in a couple minutes here, and yeah, we're gonna yeah just hang tight. We'll be right back. Shit.
All right, guys, and we're back. So I wanted to take this conversation more into female shooters because a lot of women during the pandemic felt they needed a firearm. And Joey, I'm sure you've seen
Oh,
more female shooters coming into the shop during
absolutely,
that time.
of all ages.
And yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we hear a lot in the industry is that a female should have a revolver as their first gun. And what do you
38
think
special.
about that?
I'm
38 special, man.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, and I'm not saying a revolver is bad, and I'm not saying a 38 special in particular is bad, because a full size revolver, 38 special is, or a 357 can be extremely manageable. I just think
Mm-hmm.
as in 2022, I think there's a lot better options. I think
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
I think if I can handle the firearm, a female can handle the firearm.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it plenty of times with shooting. I've taken many of my friends, many of my friends who are women who have have taken shooting, and they've handled everything I could shoot. I've actually found that more often than not, the stuff I thought they were going to be more capable shooting, like a Walther P22, which I thought was going to be much better, they hated every single one. Was
Yeah.
like, no, give me the 9 millimeter,
Yep.
almost every single time. Yeah, which was really funny. It surprised me, and
Mm-hmm.
the reason being was the Walther was light. It was a 22, yeah, so there was no recoil, but they didn't have. It was almost like a toy to them,
Yeah.
if that makes any
Absolutely.
sense.
Yep.
You
And
know,
that's the thing. You do want to avoid that toy feeling. I want to say like overly cheap plastic guns.
yeah,
Very very small caliber, 25 ACP stuff like that, because it takes the seriousness out of the equation. At least in my personal opinion.
agreed. Especially, I know down the road, like the purple guns and pink guns and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
listen, if it takes that to get someone shooting, hey, I'm okay with it. But just remember what it is at the end of the day. I actually saw a couple come in a long time ago, and it was funny because the woman was like, "Ooh, a pink gun," and her girlfriend was like, "No, you want a black one because it's not a toy, it's not an accessory, it's a gun, it's a firearm. You need to take this seriously," which was really
Yes,
funny to
exactly.
see.
Yep. And that's the thing, okay, yeah, like you said, if it gets somebody into shooting, it kind of takes the scariness away from them. Okay, as long as they're still responsible and understand, you
What it
know,
is, absolutely.
what it is. Absolutely.
No,
So, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say with that too is taking it seriously and not giving something that's going to scare them with the smaller caliber handguns, or not necessarily smaller caliber handguns, but like small handguns like the pocket pistols, the pocket revolvers,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Because I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of shooting stuff like that. And if I'm not a huge fan of shooting something like that, how is a female, a woman who's never shot before, how's she going to enjoy shooting something like that? She's
Absolutely.
she's not.
Yep. No, and if you look at it on the other side of the spectrum, some women could potentially be just getting a handgun for their home.
Hmm.
Okay, so what's wrong with having a, Smith& and Wesson 686? Nothing really.
No,
If you're
there's
going to
nothing.
keep it in the bedside loaded with 357 mag or some 38 specials, a decent hollow point in that case, nothing wrong with having a revolver. But again, knowing the limits of the gun as well.
Again, yeah, you're stuck with 6 rounds, and that's why I don't really like revolvers as the first choice.
Yeah.
You know.
Plus, you ever shoot a 357 mag in the house? Nope.
Oh yeah,
Probably.
no,
Yeah. And
no,
if you did, you don't want to do it again.
exactly. No, it's I don't like indoor ranges in general, let alone having to fire a 357 in the confines of my household. So,
Yes. So again, it's balancing caliber size as well. You know,
hmm,
revolvers are typically larger calibers. Semi-autos, you're going to be on the smaller end typically.
9 millimeter.
And
You
yep,
know,
9 millimeter, 45 ACP, always good go-tos. I mean, 380 always gets a lot of shit because they're snappy because they typically put those in smaller frames. But I mean, when you think about it, the old name for it was 9 millimeter short.
yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of good pistols in 382 that are a little bit bigger now that are coming out that I think have been turning me a little more in favor of 380.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like the Versas, I know that's not much bigger, but you have a better grip on them.
Yeah. What is it? The Smith and Wesson. What was it? The EZ.
Yeah, the EZs and 380s too, they're a little bit bigger
Yep.
too.
Yeah, a little
So
bit bigger frame. And again, if you hold it side by side with a 9 millimeter, it's really not that much different.
no, it's the same as a Shield. I
But
mean, granted, it's a
again,
small pistol,
if you
but
go and
not
stuff
bad.
that into like a Ruger LCP, something the size of an iPhone, they're snappy. And a lot of female shooters aren't going to like that.
No,
It
again,
might feel like a nice, light, manageable gun, the smallest round I would probably feel comfortable carrying. But at the end of the day, they're not going to shoot it. They're not going to like it.
exactly. And the goal is to get more people into shooting, not away from
Mm-hmm.
shooting. So something that's going to scare someone is not something that's going to get them into shooting. My friend, his fiance, I know, for instance, he told me when they went shooting, and I believe he said that he didn't hand her a 22 or a 9 millimeter. He handed her like a 44 Magnum or something like that, and it scared the hell out of her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, no wonder she's afraid of shooting
Yeah.
because You put something that she couldn't handle in her hand, especially for the first time she's ever handled a firearm. That's not,
Yep.
yeah, it might be a laugh for you, but it's not a laugh for me because now you've potentially scared her from being away in the community and getting more into firearms. I don't
Yeah.
like that.
And
That's not
let's be
appropriate in
clear for a moment.
my opinion.
Let's be clear for a moment. I mean, Grant, there's a time for joking and stuff like that, and like when you and your buddies who have all been shooting many times, you load up a revolver for them, all 38s, and you slide in one 357 mag, just as a jump. You all laugh at it. Great, guys, please don't do that stuff to new shooters.
No, it's
It
not.
is the best way for them to develop a flinch, and that will take years to work off. I guarantee you.
Yeah, no, and it's going to turn them away from guns and give them a negative perception of it. Again, case
Mm-hmm.
in point, I know several people who have, again, been turned away because of that.
Yep.
There was a guy back where I used to work. He told me that his wife, one time, some guy was just mag dumping at the range, and it turned his wife away because it was her first time out in how many years,
Yep.
and just
And
got
she didn't like it.
no, and it was just too much for her in one shot. And I don't know. The idea is, you want to get more people into shooting, not turn more people away from shooting.
Exactly. And I feel that's one thing previous generations have done a very horrible job with is they want to make themselves feel better,
Yeah,
more capable. So, bigger and better. Oh, you can't handle that? Come on. And it's like, no, guys, that's not how we should be doing this.
no,
Because
and you.
admit it, we all got into guns when we were young, right? Joey, how old were you when you first started shooting?
Whew. And when I first started shooting, actually, the first time I shot, you're gonna laugh. I was actually older. I think I was like 12 or 13 the first time I actually shot. But I've been around
Okay,
firearms since I was
but still
five,
not bad.
younger than five.
You
I think.
still a
I don't
school
remember.
age kid,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I knew all the
You,
disciplines and what not to do, the do's, the don'ts, the never put your finger on the trigger, never, always point it in a safe direction. I was always told point it up in the
yep.
air in a safe direction. Um, you know, that was, I knew all the do's and don'ts
Mm-hmm.
before,
But
and
again, you were a school age kid. Most
yeah,
of us learned at a school age level, when we were first getting into firearms. So a lot of these old timers, yes, they're grown men shooting these large caliber firearms. It's like, would you hand that to a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old?
no,
Probably not. You
no,
know.
no,
So
absolutely
it's
not.
one of those things. Try to keep the joking for more experienced shooters, or if they're aware of it. Like the one time, me and my wife were out shooting, and she had a 20 gauge, and we kind of had the hodgepodge mix of ammo, stuff left
Oh,
over, just kind of thrown in
bird,
an
buck,
ammo can.
slug, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And she's grabbing. She knows, the yellow shells are the 20 gauge, obviously, and they do that for a reason.
Yep.
So she's grabbing stuff, and I saw the first one she grabbed out of the box was turkey nitros, and I'm like, whoa, you don't want to throw that in there.
Ooh.
Why? It's like, okay, hold it up. Yep, doesn't look much different. Put the small one in first, and then put in the turkey nitro.
Ooh.
So shot the first one, okay, and then she really felt that turkey nitro. It's like, okay, I understand now.
Yeah, there's the difference between the shells.
Yeah, but I wasn't just gonna let her, have at
Just
it.
no, and that's smart, and that's you doing your due diligence as a shooter too.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the thing. Okay, especially with shotgun, flinching is big. You're shooting at a clay bird. A little flinch, you're way off.
Exactly. It's funny you say that because I don't know how many times I've been to the range with different women shooters, different female shooters, and I think it's funny because I see how certain women handle certain handguns a little better. Some will handle
Mm-hmm.
rifles better. Like case in point, my one friend, she was a crack shot with the AR-15, hands down. Then my other friend, she's a crack shot with a pistol. She's not as good with rifles, but she's great with pistols, and just a little bit of practice and she's on target. She won't shoot 22s like when it comes to handguns. They're not fun for her.
Yeah.
She wants a 9 millimeter.
Yep.
She wants something like that. She wants something.
Yeah.
She's not into the big bore stuff, and she'll be like, I'm not about that. But
Yeah.
she wants something that everyone else can shoot. So why not get her something that everyone else shoots? Which,
Yep.
yeah,
Exactly. So, and another thing, I mean, this doesn't just go for female shooters, but you typically see it more with female shooters, is that they're looking for some sort of manual safety. So,
yeah.
Joey, what's your take on that?
See, manual safety, I'm personally not a big fan of manual safeties, but I'm also a more
Mm-hmm.
experienced shooter. So for your first handgun, a manual safety I don't think is necessarily the worst thing. because it trains you on, it's just that extra safety step. But I think a lot of firearms offer an like a safety, but not a true external safety. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guns have that trigger safety, like locks have that trigger safety.
Yep.
Uh,
XDs, they have that grip mounted safety,
exactly.
which I'll be honest, my first handgun was a Springfield XD9 because it was one of those things. It's like, yes, I understand it does have internal safety. As a new shooter, I feel more comfortable with that grip safety as well, but not so uncomfortable that I wanted to go for a thumb safety or something tangible. You know what I
Something like
mean?
that. Yeah, and I think
Yep.
that comes really down to a personal preference. I've really never been big on the external safeties because the way I was taught shooting was the biggest safety is your finger off the trigger and always
Yeah.
treating every firearm like it's loaded. So for me,
Yep.
the external safety was just my finger drilled into my head.
Yeah.
It's been drilled into my head so much that again, the external safety has never been much of a necessity for me because I've also seen safeties fail. One of the
Yeah.
biggest things when I was younger, I was concerned about a safety on the Mosin Nagants, and the guy was like, "Don't be concerned with the safety on this rifle because Mosin Nagants do have safeties, believe it or not, and
Mm.
it's just not they're not safe and that you can't trust them. So even though a firearm has a safety, that doesn't always mean it's
Yeah,
safe."
it's still a mechanical device. It's prone to failure. And
Exactly.
a funny note, I have a really good friend that's a armored truck driver and hopper. He goes out and fills the ATMs and whatnot.
Hmm.
And their requirements for their carry gun is that it does not have a manual safety.
Interesting.
Yep, because of the fact that people forget to take it off.
See, and I like that because that's another thing is if you have to draw your gun under duress, every firearm company who does their safety does it some different way. Some go up, some go down, some go forward, some
Mm-hmm.
go back, some go left, some go like if I'm
Okay.
drawing my
H and
gun,
K's with their mag release. How
exactly.
different is that? You
See,
know, a
I
big
lo-
thing is just learning your controls.
I love that European style mag release. That's why I have the
Mm-hmm.
USB. I absolutely love that. I prefer that to a push button any day of the week. But again, it's about knowing your gun. That's one of the few guns I actually own that has a safety, but it's also a decock. It's actually the decocker.
Yeah.
But again, I like the idea of that's something I like. I like the decocker. I like being able to decock the firearm,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily put the firearm on safe.
Exactly. And like you know me, I carry in multiple different ways. And back when I used to work at the machine shop, I would carry in a like an over the shoulder sling bag
Yeah,
kind of. And perfect gun for that was my Sig 226. You know, it's got the decocker on it, but I can have a round in the chamber, don't have to worry about a manual safety, any of that. So, it was the perfect bag gun.
exactly. Again, knowing the role.
Yep. So,
But
uh, one of the things too with selecting your first handgun is if you do plan on carrying it or just storing it, is how you're going to secure it.
yeah,
So I think that's another important topic that we should at least cover and
that's a topic I think we
get
should do
into.
on its own. Is just safe storage of firearms and how
And,
you're
and
gonna.
we absolutely can, but I think just for like selecting a first handgun, it is important that you
Hmm.
know how to properly store. Because let's face it, if somebody listens to this episode and is like, okay, now I know what to do, they're going to want to store it properly. So with semi-auto handguns, best way to store them is either in a gun safe, some sort of locking safe. If you do have to come down to using the cable locks, what would you say the best way is? Up through the magazine well?
Uh,
That's how
th-
I've always done it.
that's typically how most people do it. They do it through the magazine. Well,
I've seen people run it through the barrel, and it's like,
I don't.
okay, yes,
Yeah, if
then
you're
you're
gonna,
locking up the barrel, but you're also running metal parts through
I don't
there.
even like see when it comes to storage, everyone should have their own. I think everything is situational based. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
but if you're gonna lock it up, I would say, and you're gonna put I would honestly just say just lock it in the case if you're if you have kids and
Yeah,
stuff
some
like that.
cases even lock.
I'd rather just lock the external case because I like to make my stuff as for me in my living situation. Without
Hmm.
saying too much, I don't I keep a lot of stuff locked, but the stuff that like my carry gun and my work gun because again I work in a gun store, so I
Yeah,
open carry a handgun every day. I don't keep those locked up at all. Like those are extremely readily accessible for
yep,
me. So safe
yeah.
storage, I
It's
think
a
all
tool.
yeah, exactly. So I think safe storage all comes down to situational where you are. who you have in the house. I think the best thing is out of sight, out of mind. You don't want to leave your stuff lying around.
Yep,
That's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter where you live, whether you live in the city, you live in the suburbs, you live out in the country. It doesn't matter. You don't give people opportunities. Don't leave
yep,
stuff out in the open. Again, I'm not saying everyone must mandate a lock and key gun safe and do this. No, but you have to think about it. Make sure your firearms aren't accessible for someone just walking on in your house who's never been there. Make sure a kid
absolutely.
just can't get it. Stuff like that. You have to be a responsible gun owner at the end of the day too.
Yep. But again, if you're using it to protect your house, it's got to be readily available.
It's got to be accessible. So you have to have a trade off with that. And I
Yep.
think that's something that as you become a more serious shooter and you become more comfortable with your firearm, that really is where your comfort level can change on how you can store your firearms.
Yes.
And again, a one size, a key thing with purchasing your first handgun is a one size does not fit all is something you need to keep in mind even with storage. Is what works for me for safe storage does not necessarily work for Tyler. What works for Tyler might not work for me. And what might
Absolutely.
work for either of us might not work for my neighbor or his neighbor or whoever or someone down in the middle of the city. But at the
Yep.
end of the day, you can't keep your stuff out in the open. Is what I'm getting at.
Exactly.
What were your key takeaways? What are your I'd say, key 5 points, or just your key points of everything we went over today?
So my key points. I mean, like I said in the beginning, the three main things when selecting a first handgun have got to be reliability, comfort, and how well you can shoot it. And to me, honestly, I believe they should be in that order. As long as you check reliability, is the gun comfortable? If it's comfortable, how well can you actually shoot it?
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, marketing, what your friends say, what your dad says, none of that matters. I mean, if you've got money to spend, great. If not, great. You know,
There's
just make
options.
sure, yeah, there's options. The gun industry has been really good at providing everything from the $100 pistol all the way up to, I mean, hell, I've seen them go $4,000 or $5,000. You can keep going from there if you want to,
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
yeah, it really all depends on what fits your needs, what you plan on doing with it, and again, keep in mind your storage options.
Yeah, I mean something. My key point is the one size doesn't fit all. Or you know just because someone else recommends it doesn't mean it's necessarily good for you. What
Yep.
fits. Yeah, you might like something down the road, you might like trying it, but just because someone recommends it and they've had experience with it doesn't mean it's going to work 100% for you. And just
Exactly.
because if it's your first gun, it's not your last one. Keep that in mind too.
Mm-hmm.
A gun is like a potato chip. You're not going to have just one. I
Yep.
don't know how many times I've seen, oh yeah, I only want one gun. I only want one gun. And 9 out of 10 times, that person's usually back for another handgun, and then a rifle, and then a shotgun. And ooh, I really like shooting. It's a lot of fun. I don't know why I have
Mm-hmm.
never done this in the past. Huh. Well, it's like I've been telling people for years. Once you just start shooting, you'll understand.
Yep. And you know what? Here, I'm gonna say something that you've probably never heard before. It
Hmm.
doesn't even matter if you like the gun.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. When I first got into shooting, didn't like Glock. You know what? Honestly, still not a huge Glock fan. Gun I almost carry every day, Glock 43. You know
Yeah.
why? I don't give a damn about it. It's ugly. It's blocky. But you know what? It fits me. I shoot it well. It carries nicely. You know what? It's reliable, comfortable. I shoot it well. There, covers the 3 points. And you know what? If I scratch it, if I drop it, getting out of the car or whatever, no big deal. I don't cry about it. I dust it off, put it back in the holster,
It's
away I
your
go.
it's your carry gun. It's not your last gun either.
Exactly. So,
Well, let me.
like I said, something you'll probably never hear before is you don't have to like your first gun. You don't have to like any of the guns that you have.
Yeah, that's very true. As long as it does what it needs to and you shoot it well, it might not be your favorite thing, but as long as it does what it's
Exactly.
supposed to.
Yep.
Now, with that in mind, what would you two things would be what would you recommend for a first handgun and what was your first handgun? Actually, you know what? This is going to be a three-parter with the
Okay.
and would you recommend your first handgun or would you have chosen something else and what would you have chosen? Geez, that's kind of a loaded series
That
there, but
that,
let's
that
I
was a
think
little much. So
I know, so
let's
but I
break it
think
down.
all right, so the first one is what would be the handgun you're starting recommending handgun? Like if someone came up to you and said first handgun, what would you say go try out? This is the base starting point for you.
Honestly, now full disclaimer: I am a certified Smith & Wesson M&P, M&P 2.0, and M&P Shield armorer.
Okay.
Well, actually, maybe not. They might have expired by now. Yep, they expired. 8/02/19.
So
Okay,
you
so I'm not
were.
an armorer anymore. I were. Yeah,
I
I
were.
was.
Trust me, I
So
swear we know what we're doing.
yes, promise you. So yes, I took the armorer's courses and everything,
Hmm.
but I would still recommend the M&P line of pistols.
Okay.
They're very well built. They're reliable. They have enough safeties built into them. I feel it's the next step up from a Glock as far as not just aesthetics, but
Hmm.
comfort. You know how comfortable it is, the sights. So to me, a good first handgun. My recommendation would be any of the M&P line of pistols.
Okay.
So I gotta ask you, what would your recommendation be? You know, and
So
you work at a gun shop, so this is kind of your job.
yeah, so my recommendation is see, it's hard to necessarily say what the first I would recommend would be, but I'll tell you my starting point where I start with customers is I go and I start with the Glock 19. And the reason I start with
Okay.
the Glock 19 is because when I get the Glock 19 in their hands, that tells me is the gun a little small for them? Is it going to be a little too big? How does it feel? The Glock 19 is a good base. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
the best first choice, but it's the best firearm for me to start and get a base read on. And half the time, they'll tell me right off the bat this is the right size. I just hate the angle or I hate the grip, and right off the bat that'll tell me okay, let's
Then
look
you
at
know where
a
to go from there.
exactly, and I will go
Yep.
to something like a Smith and Wesson MP9 2.0 compact or like a Walther PDP, something like
Okay, hold
that.
on. I don't mean to cut you off. Another good point I feel like we should touch on
Mm-hmm.
is that when you are handling the gun in the gun shop, especially with polymer frame guns, they're going to feel very top heavy because
Yeah,
you have a plastic frame that's empty. Now, when you take that to the range, it's going to feel a lot more balanced. So, one of the things when you're at the store, it might feel a little clunky, you know, very top heavy, but trust me, they balance out in the end.
yeah. So my recommendation, it's one pistol in particular is hard to say, but like I said, a Glock 19 is a good base starting point for me for you to get your
Mm-hmm.
hands on. That'd be my first recommendation for you to look at. But my first overall recommendation wouldn't necessarily be a Glock 19, but a compact 9mm pistol, whether it be a Glock 19, a Walther PDP, a Walther PPQ, even like the Smith & Wesson MP9 2.0. Those are fantastic compact little guns. I really like the texture on those. Something
Yep.
even if you're looking more, I don't want to say cheap, I like to say more affordable, something like the
There you
Canics.
go.
The Canics
Yeah.
are fantastic firearms for the money, and they're little compact 9mm handguns, and they get the job done. Absolutely. And you know the
Mm-hmm.
cool thing about those guns is, and again, we're not sponsored by anyone or anything like that.
No, no.
So I want to point out though, that's a company that does a lot for you as an initial shooter because they usually give you the gun with the holster. It's not a concealed carry holster, but it's at least a decent range holster for you to get started.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's cool to see companies doing starting off is not only giving you the firearm but a holster as well.
Yeah, I believe when I got my Springfield XD,
Yeah,
again,
they
my
do a
first
good job
handgun.
too.
Yep, they had the holster. Great, not a great holster, but it had the holster, double mag pouch. It came with 3 mags. You know, really, as a brand new shooter, you're getting the most bang for your buck with something like that.
So your first handgun was an XD9 then, and would you
My first
recommend that?
handgun was an XD9. Um, you know what? The first generation one, like I had, I would probably recommend it.
Okay.
You know, it was Um, the availability, I mean, they were all over the place at that time. They were on so many freaking magazine covers, which honestly, why one of the reasons I bought it. Nowadays, I know better. That's marketing.
Hmm.
Anyway, magazine capacity. It held a great number of rounds. It was a stainless steel mag, very nice and smooth. So, I mean, rounds, I don't think I've ever had that magazine itself actually hang up.
Hmm.
You know, it very polished outside, so when you hit the button, it drops free very
It's reliable.
nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, one reason people like a lot of tactical guys don't like them. Yeah, it's a stainless steel mag, so in a mag pouch, it's gonna glare. So you do have that going if you really get into the weeds on it.
Yeah, but
Um,
overall, it's just decent for you'd recommend go get an XD9 potentially as a starting point.
yeah, I mean it's got the rail underneath, so you have light mounting options, which is exactly what I was looking for. The safeties, you got internal safeties, you got a trigger safety, and that grip safety, like I was talking about. So if you're a little on the novice side, it's a good option without having a manual thumb safety.
Hmm.
And it's got that loaded chamber indicator, which honestly I'm a big fan of. I know it's another mechanical part that could fail, that could possibly cause jams or
It's funny
issues.
something you like that I don't.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of especially tactile loaded chamber indicators. You're in a dark hallway in your house at night. Just being able to run your hand over that slide and know that you have a physical round in the chamber. They have a loaded chamber indicator on the back of the pistol. Using your thumb, just rubbing it over. Like, okay, I know I got a
Hmm.
round in the chamber and I'm cocked. We're ready to go. I don't even have to look at the gun. So, granted, I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but I did like my Springfield XD9. It's currently up for sale at another shop right now.
Ah, that's
But
funny.
yeah, again, we buy the gun that suits us at the time. For that time period, that was probably the best gun I could have afforded.
Oh yeah. See, the first handgun I had was it was a Glock 21, and the reason I had a Glock 21, why I personally chose that was my dad had purchased a 1911 and a Norinco 1911 just
Okay.
prior to that, so I thought, okay, my first handgun will be something in the same caliber. And I would not recommend that at all. The Glock 21 is a fantastic firearm. Yeah, it's a fantastic firearm. It's just not a good starting point.
Yeah.
It didn't fit my hands 100% right. I literally picked it solely because I heard Glock was a good name
Mm-hmm.
and that it was in 45 caliber. Then I
Yeah.
went through a series of handguns, and again, this was a nightmare with New Jersey pistol permit process, and I wish I just rented
Ooh,
some
I forgot
handguns.
about
Yeah,
that.
so it took me a while to find like a modern handgun I really enjoyed, which ended up coming to the Glock series. I came back to my friend ended up getting a Glock 19, and I really liked his Glock 19. But up
Mm-hmm.
until that point, I didn't find a modern handgun. My favorite handgun shooting up until that was actually probably an old Walther P1, which I enjoyed
Okay.
shooting a lot. But no, everything I had tried and was recommended to me initially, I didn't like. I really, yeah, it took a while for me to find a handgun I actually really, really liked.
Yeah.
And I mean, to this day, it took me. I mean, I carry the Walther PDP. I love the Walther PDP, but
Mm-hmm.
it took a while for me to find a handgun. So again, your first handgun, not your last handgun. Look at how many
No,
handguns I
you
went through to
shouldn't. You
find.
shouldn't look at it as your last handgun anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's my main takeaway when it comes to purchasing your first handgun is it's your
Mm-hmm.
first handgun, not your last handgun.
And here's another thing we should probably touch on. Don't hold on to it longer than you should. If you know you graduate it and you know that that gun no longer suits you, granted, if it's a range toy, you like taking it to the range,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But if you think a better gun would suit you, it would suit your needs better now, go find a new one. Sell
Yeah,
that one. Somebody else will love to take your place with it and move on.
yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
some shooters overcommit. They bought this gun. That's just how it has to be. I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Have you ever seen that? Where people
Um,
buy a gun, they're like, I would really like something better, but I already have this.
yeah, some people you see a lot of times people buying more of the same family of guns and trying to
Mm-hmm.
like the same. I'd rather see you if you don't like that family of guns, go buy something else better
Yeah.
that's gonna fit your need more. Go to the range where you can actually try stuff. Don't just keep
Yep.
buying like I was stuck doing in my situation where I was. Try
Yeah.
stuff. Go to the
Well.
range. Try something. Try a plethora of stuff. Don't don't just limit yourself to one or two things that someone said. Oh, Glock is the best, or Smith and
Mm-hmm.
Wesson is the best, or Walther is the best.
Yep.
Most modern firearms, in terms of reliability, I hate to break this to a lot of people, but they're on par with each other. They really are. In
Yeah.
terms of reliability, accuracy, things of that nature. Because if they're not reliable and they're not hitting their mark, they're not going to survive on the market in 2022. It's just
Yep.
as simple
Now
as
I can
that.
say from a gunsmith
Yeah.
point of view,
Yeah.
major difference. I mean, one of my instructors at a gunsmith school, uh, one of my other buddies was playing with my Glock because again, we could carry to school. New concept.
Yeah, it's very
And
cool.
obviously it's unloaded and everything, but he's checking it out to see if he likes it. And taking the slide apart and whatever, spring popped down and jammed it up. So if anybody's ever had that with a Glock, they know how much of a pain in the ass it is to unjam it when that barrel drops down before it's ready. And we're messing with it, and we were new to gunsmithing, and we couldn't figure it out. And we went to the head instructor, who was like, "Look, I have no idea where to go with this. What do you like? What's your recommendation?" He looked us dead in the eye and said, "Buy a cig," and walked away.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's like with the Samsung iPhone debate. Oh, how do you fix this problem? Oh, just buy the same platform. Ugh, that's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So yeah, as far as mechanically, yes, they are different as far as working on them, taking them apart and
but
such.
most major manufacturers are going to be, in terms of reliability, have a very similar set of reliability as long as the firearm's
Yeah,
been out for a certain amount of time, and the bugs have been
absolutely.
worked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I
But
won't buy anything that's like brand new. Like this is their uh, newly designed invention they came out with.
yeah,
Eh,
you're the
we see how
test.
how that all pans out with recalls.
Yeah, you're the test product if you buy the first line. Just keep that in mind.
Yep,
But
yep.
all right, Tyler. So to wrap things up, I mean, pretty much what we covered there. So for your first handgun, my main key takeaways are, one size doesn't necessarily fit all, and it's your first gun, not your last gun. Gun's like a potato chip. You can't have just one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, my big three: reliability, comfort, and how well you shoot it in that order.
Yeah, that's three important things is, and how well you shoot it is, when you're looking is if you can try it, go try it. Because if you learn that you shoot this slightly gun A slightly better than gun B, but everyone told you gun A was better, go
Mm-hmm.
with gun B because guess what? You shoot it better. It's
Yeah,
your gun, not
yeah. And
their
lastly,
gun.
that's what matters.
Exactly. What matters is what you like, not what someone else is telling you need or what else someone's telling you need to like. It's what you
Mm-hmm.
like and what fits you.
Hey, and back to my point, you don't even have to like it.
Exactly. Some people you don't even need to like it as long as you shoot it well and it does what it's supposed to. Hey, there you go.
Yep. Alrighty, guys.
Alrighty.
So
So, yeah, I mean, that's it for this episode on, purchasing your first handgun. So to close out here, I'm your host, Joe Riva, joined by my co-host over here, Tyler Weaver. And Tyler, where can they find you at?
they can find me on my website, precisionrifleworks.com, on Facebook and Instagram as Precision Rifleworks or Precision Rifleworks LLC. One of those. I don't even remember. I don't search for myself.
Ha! Well, there you go. Just precisionrifleworks.com, and you'll find him and all his connections.
Exactly.
Or what you can do is you can just go right to you can follow me you can find me over on Instagram at sightpicture762, or now actually on YouTube at sightpicture762, where I post my
Ooh.
where I post my non gun related content, where I just post some Hunt Showdown gameplay videos. Um, but the main thing is, please follow us over on at Across the Gun Counter, at Across the Gun Counter on Instagram, as well as acrosstheguncounter.com. If you go to acrosstheguncounter.com, that's where you'll find all of our podcast episodes, including our blog and other stuff we post up there as well. I know Tyler and I got a lot of content planned that we're going to be posting up there for you guys. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just keep checking us back, keep checking back on all the multiple platforms. And, hey, stay safe shooting, guys.
Yep. Take care, guys.